Hey, what's up, guys? This is Team Hard Life Captain Albert's food ship, and this is going to be a little more in depth. I want to get a little more personal with y'all guys and how y'all been involved with the park service and stuff like that. Obviously, your family, this is something that you've been involved in for a long time. And Jan, you already know she's the grunt in the ground. Right? You know, we're doing some ground pounding over here, so.
Gotta bite. I think I got a lot of stress on my mind. It's a nice day to go. Yeah, I gotta learn. I'ma call the whole team.
I just, again, too, you know, the biggest thing for me, and I've been kind of thinking of how do we deal with this issue. Lately, y'all been trying to go right at the source of the problem, which is Eric Brunnerman. Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking, okay, if that's not working and y'all been going at it this long, maybe we need to try that other angle. Like
no, we've actually tried it.
Well, again, too, though, you've just been talking to them about it. I want to go and use the votes. Mm-hmm. Votes count.
Well,
that may be a whole nother angle that we can play.
I don't know anything about that. Is on the original deed. I have the original deed. Do you have a copy of it?
I do not.
I can send it to you. You could just. I'm a wannabe to decipher it my way lawyer, but the way I read it, it has to, none of the votes, because nobody lives there, but it has to do with something about school, public school, taxes, education, something, but
You're saying some of the proceeds or monies that come in from the park?
No,
or?
You shouldn't quote me on that, but I will send it to Jim, let Jim figure it out.
It might have something to do with the fact that the beaches were considered part of public lands for the state of Texas,
right.
And that helped to finance the public education system originally. And then now we're taking some of the land away from the state of Texas and handing it over to the National Park Service to create the national park, the seashore.
And I know we pay that on our taxes because it comes on there. State parks and federal parks, you know, that there's taxes in there for that. So yes, we are paying for that. But I'm just looking at, I mean, that's another great, I mean, if they're going to bombard us with everything we got going on, desal program, the, you know, turtle program, they're hitting us from all angles. We need to hit them at all angles, not just, like right now we're going to the source, Eric Brunnerman.
Right.
But he's going to be the fall guy. If you look at it, he's going to be, oh, well, they can throw him under the bus and then, they got what they want. Any big corporation will have that person. So if we go high enough up the food chain, I truly believe we actually have something that we got tangible.
We've actually been to Washington, we've been to regional, we've been to U.S. senators, we've been to Texas senators, we've been to Texas representatives, U.S. representatives.
Well, again, too, this was all, I don't know how long ago y'all went.
From 2020 till today.
So that was under Biden.
No, actually it started in the Trump administration, and then the command changed in January of 21.
Right.
So it was really, okay, not trying to get political.
No, let's don't, please.
No, what I'm saying is, when a president or anybody gets into a new job, it takes them a while to get used to it.
Yes.
Everybody's gone through this. So, you know, Trump's first administration, he was battling all of that. And then Biden came in and obviously wrecked it. And I have to say this as a business standpoint. I mean, my credit was way up here and now it's way down here because I've used all my credit to keep my shop open. But now it's starting to go back up. But also, too, the new administration has put into place to stop all wasteful spending.
Well, see, that's part of the problem. From my experience, and you can definitely talk about it more, once you get in the door to talk to somebody, administrations change, or it's a 2-year, you know, like senators, and somebody new comes in, and then you got to start all back over, and they have no clue what's going on. And the biggest hurdle to me, okay, you get in touch with Senator Cornyn's office, like we did.
Right.
You get somebody, I don't even know how old they are, maybe a college student, a volunteer, a part-timer that gets a little bit of money, and they don't know. So if it sounds interesting and intriguing to them, they'll pass it up the chain. But if they think, no, this isn't worth it, or it's not my cup, you know, they just pass it on.
Yeah,
Well-
I know. So I mean, that can be discouraging, right?
Yes.
Because the members of Congress or the state representatives, they're always quite busy. And when I've had meetings with them about this or other issues, you rarely talk to the representative.
Oh, yeah.
But that's not necessarily bad, because the staffer that you're talking to is kind of the paid eyes and ears of the representative, of the senator, right? And so they're paid to be there in the room with you, to record what you're saying, to jot notes down, then to hand that off then to the representative or the senator for their consideration. So it's like as if they are the representative's memory, because I always think that for the senators or representatives, you know, they're going to be hit with constituents, have meetings with constituents, maybe dozens if not hundreds of these maybe per day, right? And by the end of the day, they don't remember meeting number 26, but their staff does. That's why I think it's important to meet with the staff, even though it's kind of discouraging. It feels as if you're kind of beating your head against the wall, but it does, I think, have an impact to meet with the staff members, because they're the paid eyes and ears of their representative.
And speaking of that, and you were talking about, and I'm just throwing it out. Let's start with Representative Cloud's district, Mark Longoria. We have talked to him several times. I have met him a number of times. We know each other by name. We met on the beach at a turtle release. We actually invited him to sit at the table when Donna received the distinguished honor. And it was at the American Bank Center, wasn't it?
I wasn't there.
Yeah, the Omni, I'm sorry. Anyway, the Omni, and we all sat there. Leslie Weinstein of Turtles Fly 2 paid $3,000 for that table. And we invited Mark Longoria. We invited Martinez from Vicente Gonzalez's district. They sat with us. And another Cloud representative, a lady, sat with us, along with others. I think Barbara Canales was there, and me and Nick, and Turtles Fly 2, their pilots were there. They didn't do one thing after that. And to me, and this is just my opinion, they're all for show and tell. They were invited to the Sea Turtle Stamp dedication,
Right.
the Texas State Aquarium.
Mm.
They all showed up for a photo op, gave out their business cards. I never hear from them again.
So that's very important. That is
Never.
no. And very important, because that's why they did it. So they can go out there and pass out their
Yeah,
cards.
that's what it
But
looked
now
like
we
to me.
have somebody that's not involved with them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's everybody who's watching the channel,
Mhm.
who's from all over the world, who are also angry about what's going on, because like you said, a lot of these people, these volunteers, these vacationers that come in to look at the turtle release program, they fly in, they book hotels, they book flights, they book cars, they come out here, they eat restaurants, while they're here, really, they can do some fishing or bird watching or sightseeing. They aren't going to be able to enjoy this, and they don't know what's going on. When I started talking, that first video,
Yeah.
you saw how many people were like, "What's going on? And what are you talking about?" And nobody had an idea, even though all these big meetings were held.
Mhm.
Times have changed. We now have a voice, and I'm going to use it. And I know you're kind of at wit's end with what's going on, and I can imagine the pain you're feeling.
Well, I want the park open.
Right.
I don't want to go to the park and they go, oh, the tides are too high. Oh, it's too cold. Oh, there's been too much erosion in the dunes. You know,
It's too hot,
we
so many
need
people
access. We need access to the park
Right.
every day. That is our right. That
It's
is
a
the
national
deal
asset.
that they made with us
Yeah.
for the public, to have access to the park.
So, real quick, can you explain a little bit more of who you are to the public? Because again, too, I kind of asked you this, but I kept it short because I didn't want you to repeat yourself twice. But your family line
Yes.
owned that property.
My great-grandfather's name was Pat Dunn, Patrick Francis Dunn. And he and his brother and mother bought up various tracts of Padre Island until they owned from what is now the Mansfield Channel to Padre Island, where the causeway is. I mean, all the way up to the Packery Channel. My grandfather, his only son, ranched on the island, and Pat Dunn sold his shares in the late 30s. And he sold it to maybe a man named Singer, who wanted to make it a tourist attraction. Padre Island, a tourist attraction. Then my grandfather ran cattle on the island until 1969. The very last of the cattle were moved off. In 1967, I rode horseback in the last gathering, trying to get all those animals off, but there were wild ones and it took another couple of years to get every last animal off. And then I went to work for Donna Shaver in 1999 and traded my horse in for an ATV, and I became a turtle tracker. And I worked for Donna until 2013.
That must have been some amazing times to see the original program of a handful of turtles.
Oh,
to go
6
into
Right.
in the whole state of Texas. 6, and that was in 2001. Yeah.
How many were in the program when your last year was there?
We had almost 300. 300 baby turtles.
Wow.
Or no, 300 nests. So when you throw out that many turtles, when you get them protected and you throw them out there, you know, like you said, those nests aren't being predated on the beach, because when they are predated, there's nothing left. You know, the coyotes dig them up, they break eggs, it spoils the whole thing. The sand crabs, everything gets them.
Right, ants too.
And the ants, all kinds of things. You know, Donna using volunteers, fishermen and visitors and every other person has made a huge difference. You know, like you said, you found tracks before one of the biological technicians crossed the beach. Yes, you saved that nest. You made it possible for those baby turtles to grow and get out in the water safely. The volunteers, the people on the beach are just so important. So important.
With that in mind, now that we're kind of crossing this bridge, that I honestly believe, you know, the guys in Florida are trying to make it Florida. They're trying to make Florida here in Texas, where we won't be able to drive on the beach. That if we want to go to the beach, we have to park a mile away, probably pay for parking, and probably have our crap stolen out of our vehicles, because that's what happens over there. Every fisherman I talk from over there, all their stuff always gets stolen out of their vehicles, because they have to park so far away in order to access the beach. And even then, like, you can't be caught camping.
Right.
Like, if they catch you asleep, they find you, they kick you off the beach. And there may be more to it, there may be less to it. I haven't been there myself. I'm just hearing the stories of the horror stories. And I say horror because that's what it is. I mean, I can't imagine now not being able to go down the beach and see the whole Milky Way.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're not Florida. That's the whole thing.
Yes.
We are not Florida.
Welcome to Texas.
When they first built the Maliki building there, they didn't dip the rebar in that latex coating or whatever you put on the steel.
Mm-hmm.
Local contractors went, you've got to make sure that this steel has this vinyl covering or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't do it.
There.
And in 15 years, they had to tear that Maliki down and rebuild it. We are not California. We are not Florida. We are Padre Island, and we're different from other places.
Well, you know, it's quite simply finances. Either y'all can keep the finances in your pocket, and your fishing friends and their business, the guides, the birders, everybody else can keep the money in their pockets, or you can give it away to hotels, motels, and condos.
Mm-hmm.
It's in your hands, and you need to fight for it.
And I'm pretty sure y'all know about this. Padre Island National Seashore was actually ranked in the top 10 most dangerous stretches of beaches for human trafficking and drug trafficking.
Yep.
Now, granted, I think there was only one instance, and I think this was a couple of years ago, that me and my buddies were like, dude, this feels weird. Like, we've ran into human traffickers all the time. You know what I mean? And normally we give them water and stuff like this, but this one just felt a little different. So we actually armed ourselves for our own protection, because when on that stretch of beach, when humans hit that precipice of being at their last survival moment, there's no telling what they're going to do to survive. And so for us, we're like, okay, yeah, sorry, you know, we're not trying to hurt you. We gave them waters and stuff, but we also, we were on post. Like, we're like, all right, you got the first 30 minutes, we'll switch on. We had watch. you know, and it's something that we've never done, but we were there, we were ready for it. But being what it is now, if you look at kind of the way things roll, money has been funneled up and down the food chain all the way up there. What's to say that these guys haven't some kind of money association with the guys out of Florida to shut down pens to make it an easier access for more of that to happen, just on a more legal level.
Yeah. Anything's possible at this moment, I think.
You know, Texas has an Open Beaches Act,
Right?
Yes.
right? And down in Brownsville, though, extreme southern part of Padre Island, they built hotels so densely right up to the edge of the beach. The beach is still open to the public yet, but the question is, how do you get from the road to the beach?
Right.
There's just a few alleys, I guess, you have to go through in between the hotels to be able to get at. So it really restricts access to the beach. I like the system up here much better, where the public has open access to the beach instead. And the Open Beaches Act can be our friend. There is a state senator from out of Galveston who, for the last, I think, 2 or maybe even 3 legislative sessions, has tried to get that Open Beaches Act overturned.
Right.
His name is, I think, Middleton, as I recall. He's gonna probably try to do the same thing again this session as well. They're in session right now.
So if you can get the positive name on that, we can let these guys know who not to vote for.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? You got to get these major players voted out of there in order to make real change, because they're being bought out. How do you think a guy making $275,000 a year makes $10 million in two years of being in term?
Right. So I know that there's a local surf riders foundation here in town.
Yes.
Right.
Cliff.
Right. Cliff and Neil.
And Frank.
Very active in that. They've followed this quite closely, and they've documented this. At least the last 2 legislative sessions. This will be the 3rd one now. Mays Middleton is his name. State senator from the Galveston area has introduced legislation now to overturn the Open Beaches Act, because he and some developer friends of his up in the Galveston, as I understand it, want to try to build buildings right up onto the beach.
They've already
on the
done
water
it.
line.
They've already done it. They've closed out section of beaches, and I know this because I saw the commercials of them advertising. You can buy your own
it's
home.
private beach.
Yes, they have closed off
But
that.
isn't that where a hurricane inundated or the tide has come
Right,
up so
that's
high,
right.
then
That's my understanding
ingress
too.
and
So
high tide,
they
low
built the
tide, doesn't
houses
matter.
a sufficient amount of distance back from the beach.
Correct.
But the water line has risen, either because
So-
of hurricanes, storms, or
Yeah.
whatever
so
else.
the line doesn't move.
But right, so now the house is effectively on the water line.
Right.
And the question then was, well, should they by law have to move that house back now another, whatever it is, 400 feet or
Yeah.
500 feet or yards? And the court said no.
Because see, it's point of high tide and point of low tide, and that's where the Texas Open Beaches Act refers to. But if the water moves up, the whole point was, like he said, they voted no. Well, that doesn't mean it's not a rolling easement.
Yeah.
It's just
Which
so
is
it's
fine,
wrong.
but no, it's a gated community now.
Yeah.
So you cannot access any stretch of that beach
Yeah.
unless you're through that gated community kind of deal. So yes, that's it's coming. I mean, it already happened in Galveston.
Right.
They tried to do it here several times, but again, the local associations here fought against it. But again, too, if we're not fighting the right people high enough on the food chain, all these other guys are just fall guys. They're going to be thrown under the bus on the first chance they get, and I guarantee you that's what's going to happen with Eric. Like, we're taking the battle to him, but he's, like you said, everybody's doing their job. He's getting paid for that job.
I would like somebody to look at the deed. I've had 3 different lawyers. They're retired and they're in different fields, but law is law. You read it and you can, and they all come up with the same thing. Like, you know, it was in the original deed. The restrictions. If any of the restrictions are violated, it reverts to the state of Texas.
Yeah.
Does Texas want it? I don't know.
And even if they don't, you put enough pressure on the local guys here that would be in that category to make it, hey, you either pay attention to this or you don't, and then we find somebody who does. I'm thinking we need, we've tried going right at Brenneman. It's not working because he's being paid to be in there. Let's go higher up on the food chain and start the votes. Are going to take these people out of that position to do that, 1, but 2, the original deed. But then again, there you go. You're going to have to go to court.
Well, that's where the park would have to go to court, in my opinion, because if they don't adhere to one or all of the restrictions, somebody could challenge the original deed, like your family, Greg, your brother, and also then they'd have to go to the Texas Open Beaches Act, challenge the state of Texas. It would take a long time and a lot of money.
I'll be dead by then.
Well, we might get dead after doing all this. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying I'm not so young, but I'm pretty young. So if you ever want to pass a deed over for guys in the younger
Okay, you'll
generation,
take it.
so
These are our big issues, and you know, I get involved in a lot of issues that I never expect to get resolved in my lifetime. You just got to do what you can right now. You got to push the rock as far as you can push the rock, and then hope that somebody else is going to come along to push a little bit further.
Right.
True. Well,
Good.
I'm here,
like that.
and like I said, and I've got a lot of guys on the channel that are on the same boat, and that's I was trying to give you some more oxygen on this battle. I know you for a while you were kind of like, you know what, I'm kind of done, but I'm glad you're still here.
Well, you know, suggestions are always helpful, but I like actions more than suggestions.
Right.
Well,
Action is what we need. We need advocates out there. Write letters, do something. Don't just discuss it on social media. Do something about it. You know, get involved. Get out there and get involved. I mean, you can only blame yourself if something.
Oh, and then you can't be mad.
No,
At that point, once it goes through, you cannot sit there and say, "Man, this sucks. Why didn't anyone?" Because you failed to act.
Right.
And it's God works in mysterious ways. I went to church a few weeks ago, and they were talking about a doctor there that had treated the whole clan or their town or whatever for X amount of years, like generation after generation kind of did. And he finally was retiring. And so it's a very poor community. So they sat there and looked at, well, how do we thank him? All of them said the money's, they can't do money because then it wouldn't even be worth it to them, kind of deal. So they said, well, how about this? We'll put a barrel up here, and when you have a little bit of extra wine, you put it in there, and when it gets full, we'll gift it to him. So years later, when it finally got full, they gifted it to him, and years later, he finally decided, you know, I want a glass of wine. So he opens it up, and he takes a glass, and it's water. So he's like, okay, well, he throws it out and grabs another glass, and maybe rain got into it or whatever, and after a while he said, you know what, let me take it back. Maybe they gave me the wrong barrel. No, that's the right barrel, and this and that. And it comes out that a lot of people were saying, man, I'm not as rich as these guys, that we can't sacrifice for wine, so they put water. And they kept thinking that because they were hoping their next person or the next person
somebody else will do it.
Would put enough
Right.
wine in there to compensate, and they would just kind of dilute it a little bit, but nobody did it. So if you're sitting there thinking that somebody else is going to take care of it, don't rely on that, because it's not going to happen. And it's up to you to make something happen. And man, that hit me on so many levels, because I've ridden down potty-holed roads for a decade thinking that eventually somebody's going to do it, and nobody did it. And so now with this being enacted, I'm not taking a chance. I'm posting up, as whenever I see a post of, they did the history of Padre Island National Seashore. Well, how about y'all post something about the turtle program? You know, oh, it's not going to close. It's not in danger. No, don't lie to me. Like, we've got the paperwork. And so I'm a younger generation that's getting into it, and I got a lot more people that are getting into it. So again, guys, don't give up the fight. Pass on whatever knowledge y'all have to us.
That's about all we can do, is throw out the knowledge out there, and then have people react to it. Call me, text me, email me, anybody. Respond to Albert. We'll get you in touch with the people. I have a whole list, a whole Word document of everybody from Washington down to local. And you can
It'll
write
be
anybody.
in the description. It will be in the description, because again, we don't have that. And I'll be honest, and we kind of talked about this on videos before, where a lot of us don't have the time to read the fine print. But that's what always gets you, is the fine print. So I am totally humbled and blessed that y'all are in my shop, and try to get that on there, but everybody was kind of in a hurry, which it is. I mean, Nick runs his own shop, so I know how stressed he was just being here for that time period, because I mean, I was still dealing with customers coming in and out, and now none are here. But again, too, Jen, thank you very much.
Anytime.
Is there anything else you'd like to share?
No, that's a lot of information for one time. I'm very happy Linda showed up. I'm super happy Jim showed up. Brent, Nick, and you know, we videoed it, and I think the more, like you videoed it, you have a group of followers.
Mm-hmm.
Nick has a group, maybe some of yours, but other people, so it'll continue on and keep going. I think if I only said, I think I already said it, don't rely on social media to fix the problem. Only you can fix it.
Exactly. But don't think for a second that we can't use social media to help us.
Yes, absolutely.
Share,
Use it as a tool,
share, yes.
but don't depend on it to fix the problem.
And I'm bad with names, and your name was again?
Linda.
Linda.
Mm-hmm.
Linda, thank you very much for sharing your story with us
Thank you.
again too. Because wow, I love. I have Harrington and Harnell fishing rods above you on the wall and over here, and a lot of guys come in and they love to just come and look at the fishing rods because of the history.
They recognize them.
They recognize them, but also too, a lot of them, they were originally wrapped, 40, 50 years ago. I've had them in the collection for up to words of about 20, 24 years. So yeah, no, I won't change a thing. And that relates into everything else too. We got so much beauty out there. We need to protect it.
Right.
And if your family was willing to sacrifice it for that long,
It's for everybody, for the enjoyment of the public. That's the whole creed of the National Park Service.
They were visionaries.
yes,
That's right.
And it worked out.
way ahead of their time. And again, boss,
Sure.
where do you work at again?
I teach over at Delmont College.
The West Campus? Or
East Campus.
East Campus, okay. And what do you teach there?
I teach U.S. history.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'd have to say, if we learned if we don't learn from our history, we're bound to repeat the same
Doomed to
mistakes.
repeat it. That's right. Yeah.
And I can't imagine the amount of torture you've been going through, seeing a lot of history getting erased and then or buried in,
And what I tell my students every semester as well is that this is the way history works. Without people, there's no history. Time may pass, but if something happened in the past or did not happen in the past, it's because somebody had made it happen or someone made sure it didn't happen. And for now and into the future as well, if you see something you think, hey, that's not right, act. It's the only reason anything has ever changed, ever. Someone acted.
I do appreciate y'all's time and sacrifice today. Y'all have a blessed day. And
Thank
again,
you.
too,
Thank you so much.
Jen, got
And
my
nice to meet
contact.
you.
Very, very nice to meet you. Thank you.
Albert,
Boss,
nice to meet you.
yes, sir. You have a good one. And thank y'all.
Good to see you.
Nice
Yeah,
seeing
thanks so
you.
much. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Yes,
Tell
sir.
Teresa I said hello.
I'll do that. I'll do that.
Put
Thank
my
you.
phone back there.
Okay.